Catherine Lizardo is here, trial attorney. So, Catherine, I was looking over the Allen charge, which was not given. And considering some of the case law in Massachusetts about how often you can kind of nudge them, which may not count as an Allen charge, but it seems to me if she gets to the Allen charge, then that's it. You don't get to keep, trying to push these folks into a decision, right?
Yes, it seems like it. Like you mentioned, the way she addressed the jury when they came back is really a gentle nudge, so to speak, to say, okay, go back, because I agree with the judge when she said that, considering how many witnesses there were, and she said it here. So I'm just looking at my notes to make sure I got all the numbers. 74 witnesses, and she said 657 exhibits. That's a lot. And the judge also broken down how, yes, they have been deliberating for 4 days, but Tuesday, it was a 2.5-hour deliberation. Wednesday, they left early. Yesterday, they also, it was a shortened time frame. And then today, it was just less than 3 hours. All of those details are important. And I think, and the judge is putting that on the record in preparation for the Allen charge, should she formally do that. One thing to keep in mind, though, is even with an Allen charge, the jurors are not required to change their vote or to reach a verdict. Yeah. So if they feel that their vote was appropriate before the Allen charge, they can stick to that. Yeah, let's look at some of that specific language briefly here. There's some prefatory language, but then the guts of it are very clear here. Where there is disagreement, those jurors who are for acquittal should consider whether a doubt in their mind is a reasonable one, if it makes no impression on the minds of other jurors who are equally honest, equally intelligent, and who have heard the same evidence with the same attention, with an equal desire to arrive at the truth, and who have taken the same oath as jurors. On the other hand, those jurors who are for conviction ought seriously to ask themselves whether or not they may reasonably doubt the correctness of their judgment if it is not shared by other members of the jury. They should ask themselves whether they should distrust the weight or adequacy of the evidence if it has failed to convince the minds of their fellow jurors. And then it just says, I'll ask you to go back and deliberate. And that's the Allen charge. That's the dynamite. That very specific language. It's been fought over for years in most jurisdictions. We did not hear that. So, Catherine, I think we'll talk. We're going to look at some video here of the defense closing arguments. But when we get back to this, we'll talk about some of the key evidence we think that this jury may be wrestling with, because we don't know what the break is. Maybe it's 11-1, maybe it's 9-3. We just don't know. Anyway, let's go take a look back at some of the closing arguments in this Karen Read case as the jury continues to deliberate.
Karen Read. All right, good morning again, counsel. Good morning, Ms. Read. Good morning, jurors. I don't know how many times I start in the morning by saying we appreciate your patience, but today is one of those days. Again, we appreciate your patience. You may notice that one of your fellow jurors is not sitting with us today. I can assure you that that is because of an issue that is just personal to that juror and has nothing to do with any concern of any of you. So please disregard that, okay? I do have to ask you those 3 questions. Were you able to follow the instructions and refrain from discussing this case with anyone since we left yesterday? Everyone said yes or nodded affirmatively. Were you also able to follow the instructions and refrain from doing any independent research or investigation into this case? Everyone said yes or nodded affirmatively. Did anyone happen to see, hear, or read anything about this case since we left here yesterday? So now we're at the point of the trial where the lawyers get to do their closing arguments for you. I've given them each an hour to do so, and they both tell me that they want me to give a 5-minute warning. I just don't want you to think I'm scolding them when I give a 5-minute warning, so we'll let them do that. When I was a trial lawyer, I tried a lot of cases in this courtroom. The thing I liked least about the trial was just before I stood up to give my closing argument, the judge would say, jurors, remember, closing arguments are not evidence. But it's true. So because of that, you have to put your notebooks away. All right, so if you just put your notebooks away and just listen, and though the closing arguments are not evidence, they're certainly a very important part of the case. And we've all seen how hard the lawyers have worked for this long period of time. And we've all noticed that you've paid great attention throughout the entire trial. I'd ask that you extend your courtesy to the closing arguments. And in Massachusetts, because the Commonwealth has the burden of proof, the Commonwealth goes last. So we will hear now from Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Your Honor. Look the other way. Look the other way. 4 words that sum up the Commonwealth's entire case. 4 words that sum up the hopes of those who have tried to deceive you. Conflicts of interest? Doesn't matter. Just look the other way. Magic hairs, magic glass. Look the other way. Late night calls and Google searches, falsified affidavits, inverted videos, and butt dials galore. Just look the other way. That's what they want. That's what they're counting on, but the uncontrovertible fact is you have been lied to in this courtroom. And your job is to make sure you don't ever, ever look the other way. Your singular duty is to stare down the evidence and do it unflinchingly and do it unwaveringly. You see, you're the only thing standing between Karen Read and the tyranny of injustice. It's a job you didn't ask for, probably a job you didn't want. But it's the greatest responsibility we have as citizens here in America. Lest the government stop answering to us and we start answering to the government. And woe betide any one of us who might find ourselves in the crosshairs of a Michael Proctor. Preparing for today, I was reminded of a quote. It's a quote about the truth, and I want to share it with you. It is of great importance to set a resolution never to tell an untruth. There is no vice so mean, so pitiful, so contemptible, and those who permit themselves to tell a lie once find it much easier to do it a second time and a third. This falsehood of the tongue leads to that of the heart, and in time, it depraves all its good dispositions. What does that mean? It means that it's been observed that to tell an untruth, to exaggerate, to make a false claim, it's a cancer. One lie begets another, and it's a malignancy that grows over time. And that, folks, is how a cover-up is born. That's how a Massachusetts state trooper says in whispered tones to his friends when he thought no one was looking or listening, how he would make a case, how he would make it cut and dry, no matter the truth, how he would make sure to put, quote, serious charges on the girl. In other words, pin it on the girl. You may ask yourself, how does this happen? How could this happen? It's 2024. Surely people aren't going to come to this courtroom, this hall of justice, and lie to us, just give us false information. They wouldn't do that. They wouldn't try to cover up the truth. The Alberts, the McCabe's, Higgins, Lank, Michael Proctor, Yuri Buchanan, Brian Tully. You don't have to wonder if they would lie to support their narrative. You need only wonder how many times they did lie. Over and over and over, they and others were caught deceiving you. Big things, small things, it didn't really matter. They feared nothing. They'll look you in the eye and deny phone calls. They'll deny secret meetings. They'll claim that calls are butt dials and butt dials are answered. They'll show you a video and tell you left is right and right is left. They'll magically turn 3 pieces of plastic into 5 right before your eyes. And even when they're caught with their own lies, they won't blink, they don't sweat. They'll just look you in the eye and demand, pay no attention. You folks look the other way.
Alan Jackson with a dynamic closing argument for the defense there. Is that helping this jury come to a decision? I don't know, because they haven't been able to do so yet. The judge has sent them back in for more deliberations. We will be right back with more of this case. Stay here.